Judy Garland, born Frances Ethel Gumm, was an American singer, actress, and vaudevillian. She was renowned for her contralto vocals and attained international stardom, which continued throughout her career that spanned more than 40 years as an actress in musical and dramatic roles, as a recording artist, and on concert stages. She was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in the remake of A Star Is Born and for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in the 1961 film Judgment at Nuremberg. She remains the youngest recipient of the Cecil B. DeMille Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Motion Picture Industry. After appearing in vaudeville with her two older sisters, Garland was signed to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer as a teenager. There, she made more than 24 films, including 9 with Mickey Rooney, and 1939's The Wizard of Oz. After 15 years, she was released from the studio and then gained new success through record-breaking concert appearances, including a return to acting, beginning with critically acclaimed performances. Despite her professional triumphs, Garland struggled immensely in her personal life. Starting when she was a child, she was plagued by financial instability, often owing hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes. She married 5 times, with her first 4 marriages ending in divorce. She also had a long battle with drugs and alcohol, which ultimately led to her death from a barbiturate overdose at the age of 47. In 1997, Garland was posthumously awarded a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Several of her recordings have been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. In 1999, the American Film Institute placed her among the 10 greatest female stars of classic American cinema. Early life. Born Frances Ethel Gumm in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, on June 10, 1922. Garland was the youngest child of Ethel Marion and Francis Arvant Frank Gumm. Her parents were vaudevillians who settled in Grand Rapids to run a movie theater that featured vaudeville acts. Garland was of English, Scottish, and Irish ancestry. Named after both her parents and baptized at a local Episcopal church, Baby shared her family's flair for song and dance. Her first appearance came at the age of 2.5 when she joined her 2 older sisters, Mary Jane, Susie, Suzanne Gumm, and Dorothy Virginia, Jimmy Gumm, on the stage of her father's movie theater during a Christmas show and sang a chorus of Jingle Bells. Accompanied by their mother on piano, the Gumm sisters performed there for the next few years. Following rumors that Frank Gumm had made sexual advances towards male ushers, the family relocated to Lancaster, California, in June 1926. Frank purchased and operated another theater in Lancaster, and Ethel, acting as their manager, began working to get her daughters into motion pictures. Garland attended Hollywood High School and later graduated from University High School. Early career. The Gumm sisters. In 1928, the Gumm sisters enrolled in a dance school run by Ethel Meglin, proprietress of the Meglin Kiddies dance troupe. They appeared with the troupe at its annual Christmas show. Through the Meglin Kiddies, they made their film debut in a 1929 short subject called The Big Review, where they performed a song and dance number called That's the Good Old Sunny South. This was followed by appearances in 2 Vitaphone shorts the following year, A Holiday in Storyland and The Wedding of Jack and Jill. They next appeared together in Bubbles. Their final on-screen appearance came in 1935, in another short entitled La Fiesta de Santa Barbara. In 1934, the trio, who by then had been touring the vaudeville circuit as the Gumm sisters for many years, performed in Chicago at the Oriental Theater with George Jessel. He encouraged the group to choose a more appealing name after Gumm was met with laughter from the audience. According to theatrical legend, their act was once erroneously billed at a Chicago theater as the Gumm Sisters. Several stories persist regarding the origin of the name Garland. One is that it was originated by Jessel after Carole Lombard's character Lily Garland in the film 20th Century. which was then playing at the Oriental. Another is that the girls chose the surname after drama critic Robert Garland. Garland's daughter, Lorna Luft, stated that her mother selected the name when Jessel announced that the trio looked prettier than a garland of flowers. During a TV special, filmed in Hollywood at the Pantages Theatre premiere of A Star Is Born on 29 September 1954, Jessel stated, "I think that I ought to tell the folks that it was I who named Judy Garland, Judy Garland. Not that it would have made any difference. You couldn't have hit that great talent if you'd called her Tel Aviv Windsor, you know. But her name when I first met her was Frances Gumm, and it wasn't the kind of a name that so sensitive a great actress like that should have. And so we called her Judy Garland, and I think she's a combination of Helen Hayes and Al Jolson. And maybe Jenny Lind and Sarah Bernhardt." A later explanation surfaced when Jessel was a guest on Garland's television show in 1963. He claimed that he had sent actress Judith Anderson a telegram containing the word Garland, and it stuck in his mind. By late 1934, the Gumm sisters had changed their name to the Garland sisters. Frances changed her name to Judy soon after, inspired by a popular Hoagie Carmichael song. By August 1935, they were broken up when Suzanne Garland flew to Reno, Nevada, and married musician Lee Kahn, a member of the Jimmy Davis Orchestra playing at Cal Neva Lodge, Lake Tahoe. Signed at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in September 1935, songwriter Burton Lane was asked by Louis B. Mayer to go to the Orpheum Theatre in downtown Los Angeles to watch the Garland sisters' vaudeville act, and to report back to him. A few days later, Judy and her father were brought to studio for an impromptu audition at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios in Culver City. Accompanied by her soon-to-be vocal arranger and mentor Roger Edens on piano, Garland performed "Zing Went the Strings of My Heart" and "Eli." Garland was immediately signed to a contract with MGM, supposedly without a screen test, though she had made a test for the studio several months earlier. The studio did not know what to do with her, as at age 13 she was older than the traditional child star, but too young for adult roles. Her physical appearance created a dilemma for MGM. At only 4 feet 11.5 inches, her "cute" or "girl next door" looks did not exemplify the more glamorous persona required of leading ladies of the time. She was self-conscious and anxious about her appearance. Judy went to school at Metro with Ava Gardner, Lana Turner, Elizabeth Taylor, real beauties, said Charles Walters, who directed her in a number of films. Judy was the big moneymaker at the time, a big success. But she was the ugly duckling. I think it had a very damaging effect on her emotionally for a long time. I think it lasted forever, really. Her insecurity was exacerbated by the attitude of studio chief Louis B. Mayer, who referred to her as his little hunchback. During her early years at the studio, she was photographed and dressed in plain garments, or frilly juvenile gowns and costumes to match the girl next door image created for her. She was made to wear removable caps on her teeth and rubberized discs to reshape her nose. Garland performed at various studio functions and was eventually cast opposite Deanna Durbin in the musical short Every Sunday. The film contrasted her vocal range and swing style with Durbin's operatic soprano and served as an extended screen test for the pair. As studio executives were questioning the wisdom of having two girl singers on the roster, Mayer finally decided to keep both actresses, but by that time, Durbin's option had lapsed and she was signed by Universal Studios. On November 16, 1935, in the midst of preparing for a radio performance on the Shell Chateau Hour, Garland learned that her father, who had been hospitalized with meningitis, had taken a turn for the worse. Frank Gumm died the following morning, on November 17, leaving her devastated. Her song for the Shell Chateau Hour was her first professional rendition of "Zing Went the Strings of My Heart," a song which would become a standard in many of her concerts. Garland next came to the attention of studio executives by singing a special arrangement of "You Made Me Love You" to Clark Gable at a birthday party held by the studio for the actor. MGM hit on a winning formula when it paired Garland with Mickey Rooney in a string of what were known as backyard musicals. The duo first appeared together in the 1937 B-movie Thoroughbreds Don't Cry as supporting characters. Garland was then put in the cast of the fourth of the Hardy family movies as a literal girl next door to Rooney's character. Andy Hardy in Love finds Andy Hardy, although Hardy's love interest was played by Lana Turner. They teamed as lead characters for the first time in Babes in Arms, ultimately appearing in 5 additional films, including 2 more Hardy films: Andy Hardy Meets Debutante and Life Begins for Andy Hardy. To keep up with the frantic pace of making one film after another, Garland, Rooney, and other young performers were constantly given amphetamines to stay awake, as well as barbiturates to take before going to bed so they could sleep. For Garland, this regular dose of drugs led to addiction and a lifelong struggle, and contributed to her eventual demise. She later resented the hectic schedule and felt that her youth had been stolen by MGM. Though Garland was of a healthy weight, the studio demanded that she diet constantly. They even went so far as to serve her only a bowl of soup and a plate of lettuce when she ordered a regular meal. Despite successful film and recording careers, awards, critical praise, and her ability to fill concert halls worldwide, she was plagued throughout her life with self-doubt and required constant reassurance that she was talented and attractive. Rooney denied that the childhood studio was responsible for her addiction. Judy Garland was never given any drugs by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. Mr. Mayer didn't sanction anything for Judy. No one on that lot was responsible for Judy Garland's death. Unfortunately, Judy chose that path. The Wizard of Oz in 1938, she was cast in the main role as Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz, a film based on the children's book by L. Frank Baum. In this film, she sang the song with which she would forever be identified, "Over the Rainbow." Although producers Arthur Freed and Mervyn Leroy had wanted her from the start, studio chief Mayer tried first to borrow Shirley Temple from 20th Century Fox, but they declined. Deanna Durbin was then asked, but was unavailable, resulting in Garland being cast. Garland was initially outfitted in a blonde wig for the part, but Freed and Leroy decided against it shortly into filming. Her blue gingham dress was chosen for its exploring effect on her figure, which made her look younger. Shooting commenced on October 13, 1938, and was completed on March 16, 1939, with a final cost of more than $2 million. With the conclusion of filming, MGM kept Garland busy with promotional tours and the shooting of Babes in Arms, directed by Busby Berkeley. Rooney and she were sent on a cross-country promotional tour, culminating in the August 17 New York City premiere at the Capitol Theater, which included a 5-show-a-day appearance schedule for the 2 stars. The Wizard of Oz was a tremendous critical success, though its high budget and promotions costs of an estimated $4 million, coupled with the lower revenue generated by children's tickets, meant that the film did not make a profit until it was re-released in the 1940s. At the 1940 Academy Awards ceremony, Garland received an Academy Juvenile Award for her performances in 1939, including The Wizard of Oz and Babes in Arms. Following this recognition, she became one of MGM's most bankable stars. Adult stardom. In 1940, she starred in 3 films: Andy Hardy Meets Debutante, Strike Up the Band, and Little Nellie Kelly. In the last, she played her first adult role, a dual role of both mother and daughter. Little Nellie Kelly was purchased from George M. Cohan as a vehicle for her to display both her audience appeal and her physical appearance. The role was a challenge for her, requiring the use of an accent, her first adult kiss, and the only death scene of her career. The kiss was regarded as embarrassing by her co-star, George Murphy. He said it felt like a hillbilly with a child bride. Nevertheless, the success of these 3 films and a further 3 films in 1941 secured her position at MGM as a major property. During this time, Garland experienced her first serious adult romances. The first was with bandleader Artie Shaw. She was deeply devoted to him and was devastated in early 1940 when he eloped with Lana Turner. Garland began a relationship with musician David Rose, and on her 18th birthday, he gave her an engagement ring. The studio intervened because he was still married at the time to actress and singer Martha Raye. They agreed to wait a year to allow for his divorce to become final, and were wed on July 27, 1941. A true rarity, is what media called it. Garland, who had aborted her pregnancy by him in 1942, agreed to a trial separation in January 1943 and divorced in 1944. She was noticeably thinner in her next film, For Me and My Gal, alongside Gene Kelly in his first screen appearance. She was top-billed in the credits for the first time and effectively made the transition from teenage star to adult actress. At age 21, she was given the glamour treatment in Presenting Lily Mars, in which she was dressed in grown-up gowns. Her lightened hair was also pulled up in a stylish fashion. However, no matter how glamorous or beautiful she appeared on screen or in photographs, she was never confident in her appearance and never escaped the girl next door image which had been created for her. One of Garland's most successful films for MGM was Meet Me in St. Louis, in which she introduced 3 standards: the trolley song, The Boy Next Door, and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Vincente Minnelli was assigned to direct, and he requested that makeup artist Dorothy Ponadell be assigned to Garland. Ponadell refined her appearance in several ways, including extending and reshaping her eyebrows, changing her hairline, modifying her lip line and removing her nose discs and dental caps. She appreciated the results so much that Ponadell was written into her contract for all her remaining pictures at MGM. At this time, Garland had a brief affair with legendary film director Orson Welles, who was then married to Rita Hayworth. The affair ended in early 1945, although they remained on good terms afterwards. During the filming of Meet Me in St. Louis, after some initial conflict between them, Garland and Minnelli entered into a relationship. They were married June 15, 1945, and on March 12, 1946, daughter Liza was born. They were divorced by 1951. The Clock was Garland's first straight dramatic film, opposite Robert Walker. Though the film was critically praised and earned a profit, most movie fans expected her to sing. It would be many years before she acted again in a non-singing dramatic role. Garland's other films of the 1940s include The Harvey Girls, in which she introduced the Academy Award-winning song On the Ascension, Topeka, and the Santa Fe, Until the Clouds Roll By.